Hello, I'm David.
Hi, I'm Julie.
Now we're going to do a review of Dice Throne's Santa versus Krampus, which means you can combine it with other sets, the original set like the Bounty Hunter, or you can use Marvel Dice Throne here and have Santa versus Spider-Man, for instance. So this is 2 to 6 players. They only have 2 characters in here, so you would need the other sets to play with more. And it takes about 30 minutes if you know the rules and can play quickly. And it's at ages 8 and up. Now that is if the 8-year-old has experience playing Yahtzee and Magic. Now an 8-year-old who's been playing a lot of hobby games can handle it, especially with adult assistance. So there's a lot of reading and logical. Our boys could have handled it because they started playing games when they were 5 and 7. They were playing Magic when they were that age. Just depends if the young person has had that experience. So this is a 1 versus 1 combat game. And you'll see here from the How to Play and Playthrough, which I go into more detail, you have different things you can do with the 5 dice. And the dice, like in Yahtzee, are numbered 1 through 6, but they also have images on it. So Krampus being the bad guy who will swat children with a switch, that's on 3 sides. You have a bell, that's a 4, a present. Now the presents aren't nice presents, there's reject toys in those presents, and horns. So you could use the dice for its sequence, the numbers, or its images. For example, if I get a small straight, I do what's called misbehaving. I'll gain a gift, which I can use to get a reject toy. Now Krampus has an additional deck here. Santa doesn't have a deck. And then I also deal 7 damage. And then Santa will get eggnog and bells
Cheer.
Eggnog and cheer when trying to defend against that damage. Whereas me, though, if Julie does damage to me and it's damage that I can defend against, I, for instance, will roll 4 dice. That's what the 4 blocks mean. So say Julie does 10 damage to me. Well, when I roll those 4 dice, if I get 2 switches, I can give her a coal. And if she gets 4 coal, she won't get combat points, which I'll explain how they're used in a moment. If I get a bell, I can heal. If I get a gift, I can get on the die. If I get a gift on the die, I get a gift that I can spend to get more reject toys. And if I get horns, I deal damage to her. So sometimes when you attack other heroes, whether they're a bad guy or a good guy, you can do damage back. So the sequence, you have cards. Well, first off, you got cards. You'll start out with 4. Some of them are upgrade cards that you see on my board. Some of them that you spend when you roll your dice to change the value of dice. Because if you get, for instance, 5 6s, it becomes an ultimate damage. So if I get 5 horns, I can do damage to Julie. She can't do anything to it. She cannot stop the damage. I can modify the damage up, but she cannot prevent it from happening. But she could play cards to prevent the dice from taking effect. So if I get 6 horns, she could possibly play a card to change those horns into another die, preventing me from getting it. But once the attack goes through, she can't stop the damage. So instants, just like in Magic the Gathering, they take effect immediately, but the opponent can also play an instant. Tokens can also be instants that you can use to respond. Just depends. And how is that handled? Well, if Julie does something to me on my turn, I can play an instant to stop it, or I can play an instant to stop something that's on her turn. So those take effect immediately. Then you have what are called main phase cards. They're color-coded, and they're usually things that you do during your 1 of 2 main phases. So let's take a look at the sequence here. And by the way, this is where you keep track of your health. Since it's a 1 versus 1 game, you start out with 50. When somebody's reduced to 0, they're out. This is what you use to keep track of your combat points, and you spend combat points to play cards out of your hand. And then, like I said, Santa has reject toy cards that
Krampus does.
Krampus does that can be played during their turn. So here's the sequence. You might have some status effects. Those are the tokens that you might have. Like, for instance, there's 4 coal on a hero that Krampus put there. They won't get their combat point. Income, you'll gain 1 combat point and 1 card, except on the very first turn of the first player, they won't get that income phase. Main phase, you can play ability upgrades. Those are those cards I showed you that I played. For instance, if I upgrade my Rotten That's something I could be playing during my main phase. It makes my rotten ability better.
Rotter.
Rotter. Sorry. I thought it said rotten. It goes from level 1 to level 2. So you can upgrade your stuff as you play. But you got to draw it and be able to pay for it with combat points. And you can sell cards during your main phase, 1 combat point per card, to get the combat points you need. And plus, you might want some combat points available during your offensive roll phase, or to play cards on another player's offensive roll phase. Remember I said that Julie messed up my ultimate attack and played one of her offensive roll cards to prevent me from getting it. She changed the values of the dice. Targeting roll phase is in a 3 or more player game where you might have to target another player, especially for playing teams. And so if you do damage, the opponent can have a chance to roll defensive dice. Now Santa, when Santa does defensive roll, I gotta move the board here because that camera's not on. She doesn't have the opportunity to damage me, but she does have the opportunity to get eggnog and cheer. Cheer can be spent to modify her dice, and eggnog can be used, for instance, to spend to get good things like healing damage. So that's how offensive roll. And then you have another main phase where you could sell cards or play other cards before your turn ends. Now again, why do you want to sell cards that have combat points available? Because during Julie's turn, I might have some cards that I might want to pay for to use on her turn. So you keep on taking turns rolling, playing cards, and whoever drops down to 0 first loses. However, it does say in the rule book, I'll show you right here, which can be missed, on page 4. It says here that it's possible that you can get a draw. If all remaining players are simultaneously reduced to 0 health, the game is a draw. The opponent cannot be more dead than you. And the only thing that makes it maybe more difficult to play is understanding the different types of damage. So it's good to have this chart out. Sometimes damage, normal and undefendable normal damage can be defended, where you roll your defense reaction. Some damage is undefendable, where it can be avoided or modified. Then you got pure and collateral damage. If you're playing with 3 or more players, you can damage more than one player. And ultimate damage that's the thing that you really want, because you can't stop it no matter what cards you play or what tokens that you may have to stop it.
Yep.
So what are we going to be doing now, Julie?
Now we are going to tell you our positives, negatives, and neutrals about the game, and then how we rated it on the BGG scale. And as always, I go first.
Okay,
here we go. This is a competitive 2-player battle card game, and I don't know if I explained that right, but David explained everything about the cards, so I think that now makes sense to y'all.
Well, it's also a dice game.
It is a dice game, I forgot. Well, I said it has dice,
You're
and
right.
I put 2 exclamation points.
Okay.
The art is really silly and goofy, which I like. It's just, you know,
I'll show some of the reject toys.
It's just
here.
fun. It's not, I don't know. I think it's just really silly and cute. It's not going to scare anybody. It's just very, look at Bitey. I mean, it's just funny. I do think one of my neutrals is that it can get frustrating if you don't get the cards that you're really hoping you get, or your dice roll isn't what you want. Even if you have the ability to re-roll and you still don't get what you want, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, seriously? So that can get frustrating. And it does have that take that, obviously, because you're battling, which I put it as a neutral because I know some people really like that, you know, want to just really give it to somebody else. And for me, it's more of a negative, to be honest. I don't like being mean. Like, you know, when I did something to David, if you watch the How to Play and Playthrough, and I felt really bad that I did that. Because I know, there has to be win and lose, but I don't know. I'm just not one to like be real vindictive or anything. So
well, it's unavoidable because it's the nature of the game, which is going to affect your rating. This is the whole point of this game is attacking the other player.
I know.
But it does affect your rating for that reason.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a unique player versus player dice hand management combat game.
Ooh.
It's a take that. So I'm neutral about it. It does have player elimination in a 3 or more player game. Mm-hmm. So when we played with our son, for instance, it's possible that somebody could be knocked out and you're waiting, but you won't be waiting long.
Mm-mm.
It's thematically cool, asymmetrical abilities. You really do feel that Krampus here with the switches and the reject toys and the things he does, he's not a nice guy, okay? Where Santa, he can give cheer.
I know.
Sometimes he has to give cheer, which is a good thing, to his opponents. And when he defends, he doesn't really attack you back, but he gets good things. So it's thematic that he's kind of getting gifts.
I know,
in a sense.
I know.
So that's cool.
Got it.
So you'll see in the How to Play and Playthrough, Julie's frustrated that when she does her defense, she says, well, I can't hit you back. Well, that's not the way her character works.
Yeah,
Whereas my character, if I have rejects in play, I can hit her back.
Yeah.
Which makes me save them and not spend them. So it's quality to average components. I mean, the dice are...
Yeah, what is it called again, sweetie? They're like indented. And
etched. I forget what they're called too. Engraved.
That's the right word.
I think it's engraved.
Okay.
Engraved dice. The dials are good. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now the cards, they are linen, which is a foil stamp over the top. The tokens are decent thickness. So you know what? Now that I look at it here, well, you know what? You know what makes it average? This is what makes it average.
Oh.
Okay. But most of it's high quality.
Oh, yeah, like the main board is real thick.
Right. And when you look at the storage box,
It's nice.
So it's mostly high quality. The only thing that's low quality is this reference card here.
Oh.
Okay. That's it. But other than that, I mean, it's solid production.
Oh, yeah.
And this is why it's an automatic back for us whenever time they do Kickstarters, because they do such a good job. They really know how to produce a high quality game. Mm-hmm. So there's a hero learning curve. So even though it says ages 8 and up, that's for hobby players. Somebody coming into this who's not used to Magic and to applying Yahtzee mechanic to a game like this, they're going to need somebody who's experienced to teach them this. I cannot see somebody who's new to unless they're like really experienced in other type, like maybe video games or something like that. I say they've only played Uno and Scrabble their whole life. I wouldn't recommend this game for them unless someone can teach it to them. If they bought this on their own, they could have, and even then, it takes a while to understand how your character works.
Yeah.
Because the Krampus deck, there's always generic cards in here that both players have. But then you're going to have upgrades that you're going to have to get used to. And then you'll have certain cards that come into play that if you get them out, interact with what you roll on the board. So some of my cards here interact with my rejects. And you're not going to discover that unless you read the deck ahead of time or as you're playing it.
That's why he played this guy, because it's a lot more going on than my little Santa.
In fact, I should point that out, that if you weren't aware of this, for those of you who might be thinking of buying this, Krampus is a level 4 out of 6. And Santa is a 3. 5 and 6 are the most difficult. So this does require a little bit more effort to understand how to play. And then even then you have these interactions here that
Crazy.
you have to, you'll reference this if something happens in an unusual way and say, how do we deal with that in that situation? So those are what are called edge cases.
When, I think I've tried Magic way back when, but I do like Yahtzee, but David still has to help me with some of my cards because I don't even understand what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And
So
I'm an adult.
Now that we've played it, I think we've played this 4 or 5 times. I know how to play Santa too now.
Yeah,
But
he
usually you want to
does.
stick with the same hero. Just keep in mind who your audience is. If you're a gamer, you have no problem with this. And even then, you're going to want to probably play the same hero over and over until you master it. Now, you saw the small text on the back of that. That's my only complaint. There's small text that is difficult to read. It's like 8-point font. And some of the background images, as you see on the main board here, can be difficult to see. When it's a white circle, that means it's defendable damage. And when it's a red circle, that means it's undefendable. And it can be difficult to see that with this purple background. And when you're trying to read things on the back of this. I mean, look how small that is.
But I will give him credit for this. They do put undefendable on our board.
Yeah, usually.
So you do know.
So with Krampus, it's a little difficult to read.
Santa isn't so bad.
Santa's easy to read.
Yeah.
And when you look at his
Oh, I'm
card,
gonna take that off. Yep.
the text is bigger size here. That's more readable than this. See how much smaller it is? So they have an issue where, we want to make the picture this big. Well, maybe sometimes you make the picture smaller and make the text bigger, because I can tell you right now, older players are going to have a harder time with that, especially when you have gray on black, when you don't have enough contrast here with some of the images.
One I had to wear. I wore my
Yeah.
glasses when we played too, just
So-
to make sure I could read everything correctly.
So that's my only complaint with readability. So let's see how we rated it.
Okay. I said 6.
And that's
I said
because
7.
why?
Well,
What's the main
because
thing?
I don't like the take that.
Right. You'll play
don't-
one versus player games, but it's not your favorite style of game.
And I know, I mean, a lot of times it's just David and I to play games, so there's no choice. You know, we do have to do that. It's just,
Well, that's why you got to be in the mood.
yeah.
You got to be in the mood to play a game where you have to be mean to the other player. And you are. That's how you win.
I know, but it's just not my nature.
Right, that's why you got to be in the mood for it. Now, for me, I'm usually willing to play if she. This set, we haven't played all the other sets. We own everything for.
Oh.
We've played about 4 or 5 of the other ones, so we're still getting around to playing everything in this game.
But honestly, I've never said, hey, let's play Dice Throne. He's the one that has suggested it.
Right, but you do like dice games, so
I do.
so for a 1v1 game, you'll play this one over other ones because it does have dice.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I
And-
am a huge Dice fan.
And you can be more competitive when the luck goes your way.
Yeah.
So it takes more skill when the dice aren't going your way and you're not getting the draw. So sometimes I played games where I don't get any upgrades.
Yeah.
And that can make it very difficult to be competitive. And so it does take more skill to try to overcome that. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that is Santa versus Krampus. We'll definitely be playing this during the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about other times in the year. We're going to be doing Marvel Dice Throne here in our other video. You'll see, will we be playing that over this? That's where you have to see that video when
You'll
it's posted.
see. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. We hope you like and subscribe. And for all of you who have already subscribed, we thank you very much for doing that. We really appreciate all the support you all give us. And we'll see you in the next video.
All right, thank you.
Bye.